So we're going to jump into a role play with Justin and Nicole. And Justin is going to be the closer for a real estate agent attraction offer. And Nicole is going to play the prospect here. And we're going to break down the subtle nuances of the discovery part of a sales call and show you the things that you need to be doing so that you can close more sales. So without any further ado, Justin, kick us off with your opening question.
Perfect. So, Nicole, in your opinion, what do you feel is the biggest challenge you have when it comes to attracting agents right now?
Biggest challenge, honestly, is just finding like more experienced agents. I can find a lot of agents that are maybe new or not that great, but I'm really wanting to attract more experienced, higher quality agents.
Okay. When you say experienced agents, what exactly does that mean?
All right, pause. Okay. So one of the things that you want to do is when you first hear the problem, because the front part of the call is about getting clear that there is a problem to solve, but also getting the prospect to admit that they have a problem to be solved. In other words, say, hey, my hand's up, I'm fucked, I have a problem to solve. The more that you can keep drilling that onto the prospect in the front end, the less that you'll have to do getting the prospect into ownership, getting the prospect into responsibility on the back end. And so a very simple and very quick shift that you can do is when the prospect states their problem, you tell it back to them so that they have to state it again. So it would go something like this. Okay, so you're finding agents, but you're finding the wrong agents that don't have experience. Is that correct? And
Yep.
then now she's like, oh yeah, fuck, I do have that problem. And so you've asked them a question to tell you they have a problem. They've told you they have a problem. But then you're like, tell me again. Tell me again that you have a problem. And so you're just, it's like that death by a thousand cuts. You're just bringing down the wall of, I don't really have a problem. Does that make sense?
That makes a
Okay.
lot of sense.
So do it again right from the opening question. And the reason that I'm going to get you to do it from the opening question again is because it's a cadence. You want to get into that cadence of, I asked you something, you respond. I clarify, not just so I'm clarifying, although that's important to make sure you didn't miss anything, but also so that you state it again, whatever the answer is that you just told me. And when you get into that cadence, it creates that cadence for the rest of the call. Plus, like a lot of selling, especially without a script, it's not what do I say and when do I say it and how do I say it? It's how does it feel to have this type of conversation versus how does it feel to have a scripted conversation? When you practice more, okay, how does it feel that I ask a question, the prospect responds, and then I state it back to them, you start to feel a very different dynamic between you and the prospect. Is that clear?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Do it again.
Okay.
Rewind 20 seconds.
Perfect. So, Nicole, in your opinion, what would you say is the biggest challenge you face when it comes to attracting agents right now?
Um, Biggest challenge, I mean, I don't really have a problem attracting agents. My problem is attracting agents that are higher quality or more experienced. I have no problem finding like the newer agents, the freshies, and I have to train them up, but yeah, it's really just getting the people in that have been doing this for a bit and have some experience under their belt.
Okay. So you're saying the problem is finding the more experienced agents that are able to actually produce deals instead of being fresh and they're brand new agents.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
Why do you think you're
Hang on.
not able to attract? Okay.
Pause.
Yeah.
One more time. There is a slight difference between saying you are doing blank versus saying, so you are not getting blank. It's a slight shift. So you're saying, okay, so you are attracting agents, but they don't have experience. It sounds and feels very different to, so you're attracting agents, but you're not getting agents with experience. Because it's the emphasis on you're not having this. And remember with selling, as Nicole did as a great prospect, she was like, well, I don't have a problem with this. And they kind of like try and deflect you about telling you all the things they don't have problems with. But I kind of have a bit of a problem with this. Part of your job as a salesperson is to maneuver the prospect's mind away from the denial, the rationalizing, the I don't have any problems with all of this. You're kind of ignoring that and you're saying, but you have a massive problem with this. Is that correct? Yes. And you're kind of like using your control of the conversation to turn down the noise of that part of them that's like, oh, it's not that bad. I don't really have that much of a problem. Does that make sense, Justin? Like the slight difference?
Yes, it does. I'm still wrapping my head around. This is like a great nuance. So which one did I do?
So your emphasis is like, okay, so you are having this, but you're not really getting people with this level of experience. Whereas I want you to emphasize, so you're not getting people with experience, as in you're not getting this. You have a problem. You are not in this position. In other words, you're reminding them that you're not where you want to be. Does that make sense?
Yep, makes perfect sense.
All right. One more time.
Perfect. I'm so glad I signed up for this. This is fucking awesome. So Nicole, in your opinion, what would you say is the biggest challenge you're facing right now when it comes to attracting agents?
Biggest challenge when attracting agents. Well, I can attract agents, but they're just the brand new guys and gals. Like I'm having a harder time attracting the higher quality agents with more experience under their belt, that sort of thing.
Okay. So the challenge is you're getting brand new agents, but you're not getting the experienced agents that are producing.
Correct.
Okay.
How did that feel? Can you feel the difference that she's on record now? She's like, yeah, I'm not getting what I want. And it's like you're forcing them to get up there on the stand and be like, yeah, I'm not getting what I want. Can you feel the difference, Justin? Like the
Yeah.
level of
I feel it go
intensity?
like this. I feel like the
Yeah,
status go like this because she's like, yeah, I have a problem now, and then I feel that.
exactly. The status is being shifted because of your selective hearing as the closer. You're like, yeah, I don't give a fuck about all the stuff you're telling me you don't have a problem with. I'm going to get you on record saying, hey, I do have a major problem in this regard. And it's like dilution. It's like if there's 7 things that we're talking about and 6 of them are not a problem, and we just then brush over the 7th thing that is a problem, it's 1/7 of the attention or the focus on the actual problem. What I want to get the prospect to do is go, I'm not even going to talk to you about these 6 other things. We're talking about your problem. Tell me that we're talking about this one thing. We're not on a sales call to talk about all the things that are fine. We're on a sales call to talk about the one major thing that all your focus, all your attention needs to be on right now that is a problem. Does that make sense? So yeah, you nailed it. The status goes up straight away because the prospect's like, I can't really play my rationalizing games anymore. I can't really try and deny that I'm in a shit situation. And all of those reframes of the status, the frame, starts to nip away at the idea that the prospect gives you a bullshit objection 40 minutes later because you're already setting the precedence. Hey, don't fuck with me. We're not talking about everything that's fine. Don't tell me you need to ask your dog or you need to pray on it or, you have some ritual before you make a decision or you need to ask your wife. You're setting the precedence from the first 2 seconds of the call. I'm an expert. We're talking about a problem. You're going to admit to me you have a problem. And then we're going to talk about the need and the necessity that you solve that problem. All of that trickles down later on in the call that they don't want to give you objections because they know you won't take it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right.
Makes a lot of
Keep
sense.
going from.
Okay. So you're getting agents, but you're not getting the experienced agents that are producing.
Correct.
Okay. What exactly are you doing right now to get agents?
No, specify it first. So what do you need to specify to really dig the fucking knife in?
I was thinking if I should get into it now, but I was thinking, why do you feel like you're not getting
Not why. What is the problem?
that she's not getting experienced agents?
Okay. Do you know how many experienced agents she has?
Nope.
You know how many she got yesterday?
Nope.
You know how many she got this week?
Nope.
How many she got this month?
Nope.
How does it make the prospect feel if you make them tell you those things and you make them tell themselves those things? Force the prospect to stand on the scales. I know we're not selling a fitness offer right now, but imagine I'm overweight. Oh, okay. Why do you think you're overweight? No, no, no. Get on the scales. How fat are you? How heavy are you? Weigh yourself. And that's where you're exposing them to the harsh reality of, fuck, I'm in a really bad situation. Every time we kind of like jump over things, you're relieving the prospect of the pain of their situation and the severity of their situation. And it's in the pain and the severity that the inherent consequences start being felt. You don't have to do a consequence question later. They feel the consequences because the consequences are obvious. I don't have any experienced agents. I haven't attracted a single experienced agent in the last 9 months. Oh, fuck. And so if you don't have experienced agents, what type of agents do you have? Well, they're all fucking beginners. How are you specifying beginner versus experienced? Well, they're fucking up all the deals. They're not closing anything, right? You see, I'm just going to make you bleed out and tell me everything. Does that make sense?
Yep, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. So you're not getting experienced agents. Last month, Nicole, December, how many experienced agents did you get?
None.
Okay.
Do you feel that, Justin? Do you feel the frame control? She's fucked.
Yeah.
Like none.
Yeah.
It's kind of like awkward. It's like, oh, all right, keep going.
Yep. What about November?
None.
Okay. And October?
I did bring on 2 in October.
Okay. Just to get a further look, last 12 months, how many experienced agents did you bring on?
4.
And then what I would do is I would add in the same thing that we did with the opening question. When you've now gone back the 2 months and she said 0 and 0, I'd say, so you haven't attracted any experienced agents for the last 2 months. You make them say it again. No, I haven't. So it's how many did you attract last month? 0. How many the month before? 0. What about the month before? 2. Okay, so you haven't attracted any experienced agents for the last 2 months. No. You're like, it's like double tying them down to everything they're saying and just making them feel how bad it is. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I have a question then. At what point does the connection get made that it's a problem that they don't have experienced agents? That's what my mind is thinking
when
of.
you ask them later.
Okay.
And so the first thing I want to know is, in a minute, is how do you define experienced? Well, an experienced agent to me is one that produces $100,000 a week in downline. Okay, how much are your current agents producing? 5,000. So you not having experienced you not being able to attract experienced agents is costing you $95,000 a week by, instead of attracting experienced agents, having dog shit agents that don't produce more than 5K. Is that correct? Yes. How many spots on your team, or how many downline spots do you want to have, or do you have 10? Okay, so 95,000 times 10. Okay, so that's $950,000 a week that it's costing you because you can't attract experienced agents. You see what I'm doing? I'm just going to play the numbers out until they're like, now they see why that's so important. But I asked them to tell me because she, the prospect, Nicole, has said, experienced agents are important to me. I want to attract them. Well, what do you mean by experienced? Well, experience to me means someone that can do blank, blank, blank. Okay, so if you're not attracting experienced agents, what type of agents are you attracting? Well, they're not able to do blank, blank, blank. Let's put a number on that. That makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So, Nicole, the last 2 months, you haven't attracted any experienced agents at all.
Right.
Okay. The two other agents in the last 12 months that you said you brought in, when did you bring those two in?
One was in March and the other was in June.
Okay. How exactly do you define an experienced agent?
Um, an experienced agent would be, somebody producing, I don't know what the actual number would be, but 50,000 and downline
Just
LPs.
give Nicole a realistic number so it makes sense
Yeah.
for you.
Just say a real estate agent realistically would be doing 5 million in volume a year. So what that means is they would sell real estate worth 5 million, and then that they would get like a 3% commission on that 5 million, and then a portion of that would go to you since you're the team leader
Uh-huh.
as team splits.
Okay, so I'm saying that an experienced agent, in my opinion, would be 5 million of revenue a year.
Okay, so 5 million in volume per year. How many agents do you currently have on your team?
Right now, I have 12 agents.
Okay. And on your team of 12, how many of them are experienced?
Just those four.
So to make the pain more realistic, now we're going to swap out the word experienced for the definition of experience. So we would say, so of those 12 people, how many experienced agents producing 5 million of volume a year do you have right now? Because now we're quantifying. She's like, oh, zero. I don't have anyone that's producing 5 million. Right. So as we get the detail, the devil's in the detail, we fill in all of the detail because it makes it feel more realistic. Okay.
Got it. Okay. So, Nicole, out of the 12 agents that you have on your team, how many of them are actually doing 5 million in volume a year right now?
Well, the four that I have that are experienced, only two of them are actually on pace to hit that.
So, 10 agents on your team are not producing and they're not hitting the 5 million that you want them to.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you putting any time at
Nope.
all?
Nope. Nope. We're not finished with data gathering yet. So I want you to rapid fire all of the missing pieces of data you have. So if they're not producing 5 million, how much are they producing? Is that the average? Is that per person? What are she also said on pace. How do you mean on pace? Well, we've never done it yet. Okay, how many years have you been in business? How many years have you had an agent attraction? How many years have you had those experience? She said May or June. So I'd say, okay, so on pace. So again, doing what I did in the opening. So on pace, but no proven track record yet that they are capable of maintaining that pace and hitting it. No. So now she's got to own up to the fact that on pace doesn't, I mean, fuck does that mean? Like, on pace, you're still 7 months away from hitting that. I also want to know how many additional spots she has on the downline, if any. So I know how big the before and after is going to be when I start quantifying all the numbers. I probably want to know how many years she's been doing this whole agent attraction thing, and then just ballpark the total number. I would probably want to know, okay, so you've got 12 agents. We've discussed that only two of them are on pace to be experienced producing 5 million. You've then got another 10 agents that are, doing blank, blank, blank. So total sales volume, what are you at right now? Oh, we're at blank. Okay. Then I want to know, even though it's an industry average, you want the prospect to tell you the 3%. Then you want her to tell you the percentage that she's taking. You want the prospect to tell you all of these numbers, even if you're like, well, I know the numbers, doesn't matter. Getting her to, or the prospect to tell you the numbers is about getting them to feel the pain of, okay, well, I've got blank number, blank percent, a percent of that. Oh shit. So you're at this little percent of all of these little not producing, whatever the word we were using, experienced agents. You want to rapid fire all of that information. Then we're going to get into transitioning, which is, so what are you doing to attract agents that's clearly not working, right? But before that, we're going to gather all of this data. And you can do it pretty quick as well.
Got it. Because I was thinking, Josh, like how much time a team leader would have to spend with her team, and then what's that's costing her. Would that be like later on then, after we get this? Because
much later on. Right now, we just need high level. What is the problem? I'm not attracting experienced agents. Therefore, I don't have experienced agents. Okay. Experienced agents relative to what team size? That's your ideal situation. Where are you at right now? Total gross volume, rough averages per individual. How many spots have you got that you haven't been able to fill at all? And then we'll transition into a bunch of other stuff. Okay.
Got it. Okay.
But what's important is that you can get through this in 3-4 minutes, because it sounds like a lot of questions, but you can do it really quick.
Got it. Okay. All right. So Nicole, you said that 2 agents are on pace to hit 5 million a year. Do you know for certain if you can actually ensure that they're going to get there by the end of the year?
I mean, nothing's guaranteed in life, right? But I'm confident that they will.
Have you had other agents in the past who were on your team that you've helped get to 5 million at least a year in volume?
No.
Okay, so
see how powerful. Great question. You see how powerful that was. And I would ask it as a how many, not have you, because have you is yes or no. When you ask yes or no questions, not as powerful because it's not as open-ended. So Nicole, how many years have you been doing agent attraction?
Or how many years have you ran your team? I think that's probably
okay. Okay. How many years have you run your team?
4 years.
Okay. And during those 4 years, precisely how many agents have you taken to a high level of experience that have produced 5 million in volume a year?
1.
Per year or total?
Total.
Right. You see what I'm doing, Justin?
Yeah.
Making her, no disrespect, Nicole, feel stupid.
Yeah.
You're like, oh,
I'm also not sure how to answer these questions, so I'm just making.
No, but you're doing a great job. Like a lot of the answers you're giving are like very realistic. Like,
okay, good.
Yeah. And I'm already learning a lot about the nuances of just like getting the numbers to, I mean, you say it all the time, Josh, but then I actually like, I'm in the hot seat right now, so I can actually see it with my offer specifically. So it makes sense.
Yeah. All right, keep going.
Okay, so Nicole, you ran your team for 4 years and you only ever got one agent to do 5 million a year.
Just for your practice, Justin, I want you to ask the question that I asked, just so you're getting the muscle memory of asking.
Okay, cool. So Nicole, you said you have 2 agents that are on pace to doing 5 million per year in volume. In the past, how many agents did you bring to 5 million a year in volume?
1.
How long have you ran your team for?
4 years.
Okay. So in 4 years.
Sorry, if you really wanted to fuck her up, I would then tie it in with, okay, so 4 years, one agent that you got to an experience level of 5 million volume a year. How many total agents have you worked with over the 4 years? Give me a number, Nicole.
I don't know. 15?
It would probably be more than that, wouldn't it, over 4 years, Justin?
If it's a team, see, the thing with my offer is you could attract agents to a team. And if it's a team, it is a smaller volume because it's more hands-on. It's like training an actual sales team. right? If it's a downline, it's less support and it's more like you're in the company, it's more like a pyramid and I get residuals. So the prospect
Because
that
what
Nicole was playing, 15 is technically a reasonable number. She could say 20, she could say 30. So
if she's got a team right now of 12 agents that are remaining on the team, would she not have had more churn over 4 years of trying an agent, not really getting
yeah,
very well?
that's true. I totally forgot that she said she had 12 agents. Yeah.
Okay,
It'll be
we'll
more
say
like
30.
30
Yeah,
or like
30.
40.
Okay, got it. So 1 divided by 30. Okay, so 3% of your leadership or running a team has ever produced over 4 years has ever produced an experienced agent. 3%.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would, and then I would
Do,
just leave it
do,
there.
do I just leave it at that, or do I just challenge her on her optimism on why those two?
No, because we're not challenging yet, because a big misconception in sales is that you need to challenge the prospect. The data and the numbers challenge the prospect themselves. They're facing the mirror of these pieces of data that I'm putting in front of them, and it's like they're looking at, like, like what's the word, like a legal file in front of them, and they're like, okay, what is your success rate of getting agents to this number? 3%. Oh shit, that looks bad. How many experienced agents have you attracted? 2. Oh, that's pretty shit. And you're just presenting all of these facts, and they're just having to look at them one by one and be like, oh fuck, that's shit, that's shit, that's also shit. And so you don't have to challenge the prospect until way later, if she isn't facing the music, if she isn't facing the reality. If you said something later on like, okay, so have you gotten to the point, given that, you're not attracting experienced agents, you're losing $950,000 a year in blank potential. Have you gotten to the point where you clearly need help with agent attraction? She's like, well, no, it's not really that bad. Then I'm going to have to challenge her. But the data is doing the challenging for you. And what's also good about that is, have you ever heard the phrase, don't shoot the messenger? Have you ever heard that phrase? Well, it's a nice phrase, but people shoot the messenger. So by presenting data, she's not having a conflict with you. You're just producing the data. Whereas when you are the one that's challenging her, it's like head to head. It's like, right, I'm challenging the prospect. This is, I'm the messenger. Whereas if you're just like with your clipboard gathering the numbers and you're like, are these numbers all correct? And she's like, yeah. It's like it's detached from you. So it's much easier for you to sell someone when you're the one like, well, I think you should do this, or what about this, or why haven't you done this? It's like you're personally attacking her. So you may need to do that, but you want to do it as a last resort, at the latest point necessary. And why so many salespeople get stuck challenging is because they're not gathering enough data that would have done the challenging for them. So now they're trying to challenge the prospect, and they're like, oh, I'm getting into, objection handling or issues with the prospect. My prospects aren't opening up. My prospects are hanging up the call. My prospects need to be followed up with and put into a pipeline. It's like, yeah, because you didn't gather the data, and the data would have just done most of the selling for you. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
makes sense. Okay, so in 4 years, Nicole, how many total agents did you work with or bring onto your team?
Um, about 30.
30. Okay. So out of 30 agents, you only were able to really convert one agent. So that's about a 3% chance of an agent joining your team based on the data you gave me that is able to become an agent that does 5 million a year in volume.
Yeah, I guess when you look at it that way.
Okay.
And when someone says, I guess if you look at it that way, don't
How
allow
else
them.
how else should I look at it?
Oh, that's a bit confrontational. So I would just ask them, is that fair? Is that accurate? Or do you disagree?
Okay.
You're offering them the opportunity to disagree.
Okay, I see. Do you disagree with the assessment, Nicole?
No, I just hadn't really looked at it from that same perspective before.
Okay.
Keep digging. So now that you're looking at it, is that accurate? Because she's still not answering the question. It's like, is that fair? Well, I've never looked at it that way. That wasn't my question. My question is it accurate? You need them to say, yes, that's correct.
I'm so curious, Josh, because like it's when Nicole answered that, I'm just like, okay, there's nothing else here. I've hit bedrock. And then I hear you ask that question, and it's like you just found gold. Like you just dug a little bit more and you found gold. So I'm like, holy shit, that's crazy.
And I remembered the one change that I was going to say before. I wouldn't have used the word chance, because chance is like the hypothetical future. There is or isn't or could be a chance, a 3% chance. We're talking about facts. So your success rate has been 3%. Yes. As opposed to, so your chance moving forward is 3%. Because she could be like, well, no, I've got better now. And then now you've just dug yourself a hole where she's like, oh, I'm better now.
I think
You
that's
you
why
you
I
want to
did
take the
answer.
facts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think because
So
of him saying chance, it left me being like, well, I don't know. So I probably wouldn't have answered that if you didn't say chance, to be honest.
exactly. So you got to be careful with your words. Your words need to be, as often as possible, framing about the facts. And that's why we spend so much time gathering the data about the right now and the recent past, as opposed to being one of the idiot salespeople that's like, let's talk about your hypothetical goals and your hypothetical future. It's like, it's hypothetical. You can argue it till you can argue the sky might be pink in the future. And how am I going to disagree with you? I don't know the fucking future. I can't argue with that. Whereas I can say, so for 4 years, your success rate of your agent attraction was, and by the way, I would also do this, was 97% of the agents that you worked with never hit that number. So I would flip it upside down. So over 4 years, 97% of all of the agents that you worked with over a 4-year period never got to the experience level of making 5 million volume a year. Is that accurate? And then now she's like, fuck, I'm a 97% failure. That doesn't sound very good. Right? So we're just twisting the truth, and we're twisting the information to present what matters most to the prospect to have a high likelihood of fixing their problem. It's like, if your problem is you've got a glass with a hole in it, and someone is trying to help you fix that glass, and you say, well, even though there's a hole in it, it's underneath the halfway, the hole is above the halfway mark, which means we've still got a glass half full. You'd be like, yeah, but 50% of the space above the hole is empty, right? So you need to force people's perspective to look at what's missing, not look at their 3% success rate. Because if she's like, well, I've got a 3% success rate. No, you've got a 97% failure rate. And what they choose to look at is going to determine their future actions. And we have an ethical duty as salespeople to move their focus onto the things that are going to allow them to excel and to move forward, which, by the way, is let's look at all the things that aren't working and how badly they're not currently working. So I would always flip the 3% and say, so it's 97% of, and if you really want to nail it, so 97% of all of the time and effort that you spent over the last 4 years working with agents never got them to a 5 million a year experience level. And she's like, oh shit. Because now I've also added in the words time and effort. So she's like remembering the stories, all of those agents that I worked with, and the meetings and the late nights and the early mornings and the hours and the effort and the arguments trying to get them to produce more. Fuck, 97% of that was a waste of time.
Question for you, Josh. This is a hypothetical. I can see some prospects that I talk to, they might get defensive here, or maybe try to flip the ownership and say, because here's the statistics: the real estate agents don't stay in the business for too long. The statistics is most of them actually get out of the business in like 2 years, like 80, 90%.
Why is that?
They come from a 9 to 5 world, and they don't realize like how much money it takes for them to get their license, keep their license. They have to pay money on marketing.
And
They're not willing to,
why does how much money they have to spend matter?
because they're not willing to invest it. Is why most agents fail. So
Why are they not willing to invest that money?
just wrong expectations getting into the business, thinking that buyers and sellers were just going to fall into their lap. So they never thought about paying for leads. They never thought about marketing themselves.
Would they pay for those leads and continue to pay for their license if the return on that investment was significantly greater than the expense?
Yep.
So is it an issue with the cost, or is it an issue with having a proven system that allows them to get a multiple on that investment?
It would be the latter. And I see what you did there.
And who, in terms of the downline, who is in charge of making sure that the time and the effort and the systems and the processes are generating a significant return on investment for the agents in your downline?
That would be me as the team leader.
And so I understand you're trying to flip things around and say that, well, people leave. Would they have chosen to leave your downline if you had processes and had systems and had, the right things in place where it was a great opportunity for them to stay working with you?
Well, Josh, I think I do have the right.
A yes or a no is fine.
Sorry, what was your question?
Would they have chosen to leave you and leave the industry if the amount of money that they were generating was a significant multiple of the money that they were investing to have their license and to have the other expenses that you said? For example, if they had to spend $15,000 a year, but being a part of your downline, they were taking home $500,000 a year, would they have left?
No, they wouldn't have left.
Okay, so is it an issue with the industry and the market and agents, or is it an issue that you don't have what you need to keep your agents?
I can't argue the facts. I mean, looking at the statistics, I have a 97% failure rate, but I just don't know what the problem is because I'm giving the agents the leads, I'm providing them with the opportunities, but they just haven't like followed up with the leads. We're in the business of sales, so I don't know if I don't have the right agents that are motivated and hungry, but I'm providing with the infrastructure that they need to get deals done. I just don't know what the issue is.
Okay, well, so either way, you have a potential issue with what you're giving your agents in terms of lead quality and systems and processes, or you have an issue with attracting better agents. So either way, who's got the issue?
That would be me.
Right? Like he's trying to say it's the agent's fault then, or it's the industry, or the this. It's like, well, who's attracting the agents? You. Wherever this prospect wants to try and take me, I will bring it back to it's on you. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. A lot of agents do that. And I feel like I let it slide. And then that's probably why they didn't give me bullshit objections. Because then,
And also remember that your second order and third order and fourth order consequences or challenges that you're trying to solve are a repercussion of the stuff that we've just trained on for the last 10 minutes. I think I've given you 4 or 5 additions that you could add into the first 3 minutes of your sales call. When you start doing those things, the agents are going to be significantly less likely to try and take the ownership away. Like, oh, it's not my fault. And so, as opposed to later on in the call thinking, fuck, why are these agents trying to say it's not their fault or take the frame or whatever? It's like, focus on why that's happening. And I would bet money that if you do what I've been telling you to do for the last 50 minutes, you will get a significant reduction in that happening on your sales calls, if not complete elimination. Okay. All right. Go start wherever you want to go from the role play.
okay. So, Nicole, last 4 years, 1 out of 30, that's a 3% success rate, which means in the last 4 years of all the agents that have worked with you, 97% of the time and the effort that you have put in to try and help them get to 5 million a year has just not worked.
Yeah.
Okay. The other 10 agents that you have right now, just to understand, where are they on average ballpark to do this year in volume?
A few are very new, so definitely ramping them up, but on average, I would say 2 to 3 million.
You know what, Justin? I misled you. I would do this like this. And the reason for this is that the way I just told you to ask that question, you're kind of giving the prospect room to just make up a fucking number. Well, I think on average, they're all at 3 million. What would be very interesting is if we did, 3 million times 10 plus the number for the two agents, what you would find is that the number that she has calculated would be much bigger than what her actual yearly gross volume would be because she would have inflated the number. So the
Right.
better way to do it would have been this. Okay, so you got 12 agents. Two of them are doing blank. So did we ask her what the two are doing? They're at 5
No,
million. They're
I
on
didn't. She said
pace to
on
do.
pace, but I
Yeah.
don't know what that means. Well, what are they doing? I guess I should ask how long have they been with you for? Oh, more than a year. Okay, last year, what did they do? I think that
I believe it was March and June was
Mm-hmm.
what Nicole said. So that's
well,
this year.
that's March and June 2024, right? So up to this point,
Oh,
you
that's
could
a good point. That's a
right.
good point.
It is
Okay.
we're now in January.
That's a very good point. So you could do that. You could say, okay, well, from March or June when either of them joined to now, if you were to just ballpark it to the closest couple of 100,000, what have they generated? And she says 4 million and 4 million, just to keep random numbers. You say, okay, got it. So they're at 4 million. So thereabouts, they may hit the 5 million, come March and June. The other 10 agents, I want to calculate that. So for the total year, like if we said the last 12 months, what was your total volume per year? And she says, make up a random number, 100 million. She said, okay, 100 million minus the 8 million. So we've got 92 million. 92 divided by 10 agents. So your average agent is 9.2. Now, those numbers are completely fucked up now because we were saying 5 million should have been a super high level. But do you see what I'm doing? I'm taking the actual numbers and dividing it by how many agents you've got to get an average, as opposed to if you ballpark the number, what is the average? Because they'll tell you a fucking number and then you'll ask for their total yearly and you'll be like, well, that doesn't equal that, right? So they've wriggled through what would be called our choice of questioning, giving them wiggle room, giving them the opportunity to kind of twist the facts a little bit. Which, why do people twist the facts? They want to twist the facts because the truth is painful. When we're talking about a challenge or a problem, the more I can twist the facts, the less feeling I have of reality. If we were doing a fitness offer and you say, oh, how much do you weigh? Oh, 300 pounds. Okay. When did you last get on the scale? Oh, that was about a year ago. Okay. And obviously, we're on a call now about losing weight. Has your weight gone up over the last year, stayed the same, or gone down? It's gone up. Okay. So when you did weigh yourself a year ago, what did you weigh? Oh, well, that was 300 pounds. Ah, so it was 300 pounds a year ago, and you've gone up weight, but you just tried to tell me that you're 300 pounds. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's what people do because it just makes them feel better. Our job on a sales call, sadly, is to not allow the person to feel better. It's to allow the person to feel as bad as it really is. If we get the facts and they don't feel bad, then there's no sale, which is fine. It's not that bad. If we get the facts and they're like, shit, I feel terrible. Well, you feel terrible because that's the reality that you've been denying. And by being in denial and not feeling the reality, you've chosen to not take action. Our responsibility as salespeople is to get people to feel how bad it really is. Does that all make sense, guys?
Yep, that makes sense. My question here then on the data gathering, just so I don't get confused, because like with an agent team and a downline, there is always attrition. People come and go. So would it just be better to just simplify it? Nicole, last 12 months, what was the total volume that your team did? And then how many agents did that consist of? And then I get the average there. And then now I have the actual factual average.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Good. And then to really tie that in, I would then say I would want to try and calculate a percentage of the difference between the performance level of the other guys or girls and the top guys or girls. In other words, so 10 of your people are producing 3% of your volume. Meanwhile, the other two are producing 97%. Is that accurate? Wow. So that's the difference that you're facing as far as output by not having the ability to attract the experienced people. The more you can statistically show the differences between things, how high something is, how low something is, the gap between things, the more the picture is clear in the prospect's mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Usually it's even worse than that, Josh. Usually it's the team leader that is still doing 80% of the volume of the team. So like that, whatever Nicole says, total volume of the team, most of that would usually be her production. So then we're splitting whatever little bits of pieces between 12 agents, and it's really nothing.
Even worse.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. That makes sense. Okay.
And that's where you're going to then lead into challenging the prospect. Because
What would I
now
say?
there's no scripted line, but you could say, so you're producing 98% of the production of your business. Meanwhile, you have the time and attention to manage another 10 agents. Why are you even bothering with those 10 agents? And then she probably has to say, because I haven't been able to figure out how to attract any experienced agents, but I want to get off the phones, so I'm trying. Okay, well, it sounds like a lot of wasted time, right? So I'm making them see that not being able to solve the agent attraction is causing them to have all of this complexity and volume in terms of people in the downline that aren't even producing any work. In other words, you know, it genuinely would be better to have 96% of the business revenue and 0 people. But then you have to ask them to tell you why they don't want to do that. So I would unsell. I'd say, well, why don't you just fire them all? Sounds like a waste of time. Well, no, Justin, because I know I need to build a downline because of this goal, which I won't hit on my own, and or because I don't want to be the one producing deals anymore. Okay, how long have you wanted to not be the one producing for? Oh, 10 years. So 10 years you've been wasting your time and effort attracting low caliber agents wanting to get out of the production yourself. I mean, trying to figure this game out for 10 years and not being able to. How has that impacted you? Right? You see where I'm going? I'm just going to keep going and going and going and going until they're like, yeah, I'm an idiot and I'm wasting my time.
Makes sense.
Go from wherever you want. You can go back. You can start where we just finished, wherever you want.
Got it. Okay. So, Nicole, just to get an idea here, last year, last 12 months, the total volume of your team, what was that?
Total volume was 30,
Okay.
30 million.
That 30 million, are you in production at all?
Yeah.
Okay. How much of that 30 million was your production?
Oh, about at least 85%.
85%. So just get out a calculator here. 30 million. That's 186. About 25.5 million was your volume of production. So that means about 4.5 million was split between how many agents in the last 12 months?
Oh, we're doing 12 months. Oh, yeah. So,
Mhm.
sorry, I was basing that off of the last couple of years. So then that's different. I don't know. These numbers are screwing me up.
I mean, it's still decent. I mean,
Yeah.
you're getting pretty realistic numbers. So,
Okay, good. So yeah, that was off of, let's see, I brought on the the 4 new ones this year. So that was 8 agents. Yeah, 8.
Okay. So on average, 4.5 million divided by 8, your agents are doing about 500,000 a year in volume.
Yeah.
And you need them to be at 5 million a year.
Yeah.
So I would also be curious to ask, I forgot the number, Nicole or Justin, what is the volume that the owner is doing? So Nicole per year?
Doing 25.5,
Okay.
85%.
25.5 million.
Yeah.
So I would say to Nicole, so why do you think your agents are only producing 500,000 when you're producing 25.5 million? Why do you think that is?
Maybe spending, I don't know, maybe too much time on my own pipeline instead of the others.
Why would you be spending more time than your agents should be spending? Is their job not to spend all of their time on the pipeline?
Maybe it's just because they are so inexperienced and I
Okay,
have
so
to.
go. So what is your experience in regards to, is it years that you've been doing this that you think is the difference in experience, or what, when you say experience relative to those other people, what do you mean?
Well, I've been doing it for a lot longer, for
How
sure.
long? How long?
I've been in the industry for 25 years.
Okay, so you've been doing it 25 years. Do you know on average how many years of experience your average agent has?
1 to 2.
Okay. So aside from the time, 1 year versus 25 years, any other particular reason you think they're producing so much less than you?
Um, Maybe the training that
Okay,
they're
so
getting.
who's training?
Um, I mean, what we give them at
Okay, so
our
you might
agency.
not have the right training to help them produce it closer to what you're producing. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Okay, anything else?
Maybe drive.
Okay, so actually, not the technical training, but like the leadership and the way that you motivate them, kind of like internal stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and do they get anything on that from your team in-house?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, but you don't think it's working at the level that it needs to be. It could be
Correct.
part of the problem. Okay, so drive, training, experience, anything else?
Probably about it.
Okay, so you see what I'm doing, Justin? Okay, so it's experience, training, drive. So then what I would say is, so if we broke that down into two things that is costing you to have agents that are basically producing, 500,000 as opposed to 25 million. On one hand, you've got your agent attraction. You're not attracting people that have more than a year's experience or more than 2 years. The other side is once you attract the agents, your retention and development and training, both skill set training and drive and internal and the call it motivation, that also isn't where it needs to be. So it's both your attraction and your development in-house that is causing you to not be able to get agents that are producing closer to what you're producing. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Right? Did you see what I did there, Justin? So I'm saying you're not attracting the right agents, and once you attract them, you don't have the right development or whatever to improve them. That makes sense?
So that's where I'm questioning then, Josh, because my program doesn't solve for that then. It only solves for the attraction piece. So then where do I go from there? Do I ask her from those two factors, which one do you feel you need to solve for first? Do I ask her something like that?
Yeah, you could say that, or I could just say, do you have a preference, Nicole, in terms of like, let's say we could wave a magic wand and you could just have experienced people that are already trained and already maybe more professional and they have their own drive. Would you rather just attract them, or do you want to like train people up and, give them the drive? Do you have a preference there?
Um, I would prefer to just have experienced agents. Yeah.
Okay. Any particular reason why?
I mean, my long term goal is to be able to step away from
Oh, okay, interesting. So you don't even want to be facilitating training, facilitating motivation, having to rah everybody together and keep them actually producing. You just want highly experienced agents that are driven, that are well trained, that are just going to come in and allow you to get out of the business whilst growing the business. Is that
Exactly.
okay? You see what I did, Justin? It's just like,
Yep.
well, I can just, it's like I sold you into a question that gave me two things, but then I can unsell you out of the thing that I don't want you to focus on if I want to.
Yeah.
Which you might be like, well, what if it goes the wrong way? And it's like, this is where you have to lean more into your beliefs, which is they booked in a call on an ad that was about agent attraction, not on an ad that said internal training for agents. In other words, my belief is, well, they probably don't want that thing. Otherwise, why the hell are they on this sales call? So but if I try and force them that direction, they'll feel that I'm trying to lead them in a direction and then they'll back off. They'll be like, oh, I don't want, this guy's trying to sell me his product. Whereas if I'm like, well, do you want to do that one? They're like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. Coincidence. So it's not a coincidence. It's an inbound booking. They saw an ad that said agent attraction, not an ad that said training and motivating for your team. Make sense?
Yep, that makes sense. And then where I go from there, then, if Nicole says I want to get the agents, why? Then I could just ask you, why do you think you've been only attracting agents with 1 to 2 years of experience in the last 4 years?
Correct. So you want agents that are experienced enough that they could be producing what you're producing. So, and by the way, now that we've got more information, we have to start contextualizing what we're saying. So instead of saying, why do you think you've not been attracting more experienced agents? The question needs to be loaded with, so why do you think you're not attracting more experienced agents that could be producing closer to the number that you're producing, which would allow you to leave the business? In other words, to get out. We're contextualizing everything together. We're like connecting the dots rather than just saying, why are you not attracting agents? It's like, well, I'm not. Why are you not attracting the agents that would allow you to accomplish your goal that you want to accomplish? You see how we're bringing everything together now that we've got more information? Another thing that I need to know is, why do you want to leave the business?
Right. And also how many agents you need to leave the business is another very important one, if that is her goal.
So I wouldn't ask agents. I would say, what would you need to be being produced by agents in terms of volume so that you could leave? Because it's not the volume of agents, Justin, because that's based on the experience level. 10 agents is currently producing a four whatever the fucking number was, 4 million.
Yeah.
So it's not how many agents, it's how much gross volume do you need from a team of agents? And then we could reverse engineer, okay, what experience level do you think that would be? Oh, I think I need people that have 4 to 5 years that would be on average each producing blank. Okay, cool. So that's what you need. And this is what you have. Why hasn't that happened? And then we're just going to keep going from there.
Got it.
Clear?
Yep.
All right.
Clear. Just a lot to like be like, holy shit. Um, okay. All right. So 8 agents doing 4.5 million, and you're doing 25.5 million in the last 12 months. Why do you feel like your 8 agents that are each doing 500,000 a year are not able to replicate the level of production that you're at, being at 25.5 million?
Possibly because I just have more experience.
Okay. When you say experience, what exactly do you mean?
Well, I've been in the industry now for 25 years, and most of my agents have, 1 or 2 years under their belt.
Okay.
another thing that we can do, always playing the mental maths. What's 25 divided by 1 or 2? Let's just do it by 2.
12.
So you play that back to her. So your agents are 12 times less experienced than you are. She's like, oh shit, my agents are fucking retards. Right? Because we're always doing the maths, and we're giving people different perspectives. So 1 or 2 years experience versus 25 years, 0 versus 12x. It's like when you do maths at school and it's like 50% as a fraction, 1/2. A fraction as a decimal, 0.5. Like, the more different ways you can give people to see the information, because people are different. Some people have the click moment when you got her to say, oh, I have 25 years experience and they have 1. Other people have the click moment when you're like, so you're 12x, you're a multiple of 12 more experienced than your agents. And I would probably just say, wow. And then she's like, oh yeah, man, like I'm basically running an office that's like a kindergarten. Like, I've got like children with me that just are like 12 times less experienced than me. And they might then have the click moment. Make sense?
Yep, makes sense. So you have 25 years of experience in the business. Your agents have a 1 to 2 years. So you're roughly, if just highballing it here, agents have 2 years, 12 to 13 times more experienced than your agents.
Yeah.
Okay. I lost my train of thought. Hold on. I was going to go somewhere.
Then you could say, so why do you think you're attracting agents that only have 1 or 2 years of experience? Meanwhile, you're 25 times more experienced than them. Why do you think you're attracting that low level of agents?
Gotcha.
I
Would it
don't
be
know.
appropriate, Josh, to also ask, like, sort of like a unsell here? Because at this point, I don't know why Nicole's wanting to build a team, right? At this point, could I also go in a different direction where I could just say, okay, if your agents are 1 to 2 years of experience, have you ever thought about just going by yourself and just increasing your own production? Because
You
I
you
could be
could
like, it sounds like it's a lot of work because you're right, like what you said earlier, how she's probably doing training with them and all these things. So like, why not just go off on your own and just be an agent? And then her goal will come out on why she wants to build a team. That's what I was thinking, actually.
exactly. So I would absolutely go that direction if we didn't already have the information that she has said, I think twice, I want to leave. I want to buy my way out. Because she's already told us, I'm not going to ask her, well, why don't you just get rid of the agents? Because she's told us she wants out. So it's obvious that she needs the agents. So my question is going to be, why do you want to get out? Right? Remember the training we did on the big live group training, where it's like, you have multiple choices of what you can ask. You have to pick the choice that's going to be closest to the truth, closest to the red hot sun, which is like, there's something going on here. This lady is doing agent attraction, running a downline, but she wants to get out of that. That's where the juicy stuff is going to come about. I know it's a bit weird me saying these things, Nicole, because this is a role play, but it's like, oh, I'm getting older and I want to have kids, and if I don't have kids now, I'm going to be too old. And then now we've gone from, we're not selling experienced agents, we're selling the removal of the potential regret of not having kids now and trying in 5 years and finding it's too late. You see how we've made that massive bridge now from like, we're selling some tangible shit to we're selling the meaning of life for some women. I have to have kids. That to me feels like what I'm on the planet for. Okay, well, you've been trying to figure this out for 4 years. So if you don't, is it realistic that another 4 years could go by? I mean, I know you don't know your body clock, but you probably have a feeling, or maybe you have a amount of years that you're willing to roll the dice. Would you be willing to keep trying what you've been trying for another 4 years and not having kids? And the lady's like, no, wait, fuck no. Like that's too risky for me. I'm not willing to wait another 4 years. Like that's highly likely that it may be too late, as an example. Does that make sense, Justin?
Yep, that makes sense. And then at that point, if we're that deep, then the question is, are you at that point where you're ready to make a substantial change in the way how you get agents?
Yes, but I would phrase it as why, like, not are you, because we've had such a deep conversation. Then I would phrase it more as, so you've been trying to figure this out for 4 years. You want to leave so that you can have kids before it's too late. Was there any particular moment that kind of prompted you to book this call with, thinking about kids and realizing you're basically trapped in the business and you won't be able to do that, where you thought, I need outside help. I need to fix this one way or another. I'm going to book a call. What was kind of the moment for you? And she'll say, had a conversation with my husband, blah, 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 blah. And she'll tell you the moment. I wouldn't have phrased it as, are you at the point? Because she just told us that there's some deep shit going on. So I'm going to say, so you now tell me why that thing is connected to the here and now. What was the momentary change where you said, I need to speak to someone, I need to click on an ad, book a call and fix it? Then the final question is going to be a trust question, which is just, so why us? Like, what was it about our agent attraction that you felt like these guys can help me? Because, and also, I've said this on a previous training, because we've had such a deep conversation, the way that the prospect now answers that question is like, it's already pre-manipulated. It's like, well, I liked the fucking color scheme of your logo. It's like, that doesn't have any fucking connection to whether we can help you. But because she's now, as the phrase goes, looking at things through rose-colored glasses, anything that I ask her to tell me about why our company, she's now going to sell herself. Because if you haven't gone deep and you're trying to ask someone, why do you want to work with us? They're like, well, I don't know if I want to. They're trying to find all the reasons that they don't. Because we've had such a deep conversation where she's like, Justin has helped me figure out my financials, why it's going on, the importance that I fix it, the consequence if I don't fix it. She is now so connected to Justin that her belief is tainted. It's like, well, I just liked your hairstyle on the VSL, so I thought you can help me. I'm being facetious, but it's like they sell themselves on the idea because they want to continue the engagement that they're having with you on the sales call, with the business, with the fulfillment team. They want to continue that momentum. They don't want to change path. They don't want to change direction. You've already started to create that connection. So now they just want to follow through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was just going back to sort of the middle part of the discovery where we get to a point where I asked Nicole like why she wants to get out. I don't know if how often a prospect's going to tell me it's because they want to have kids. A lot of agents I talk to, they already have kids and they're being an agent. But usually what the pain point is that they have to work the evenings. They have to work the weekends. They have to
What's
miss
bothering you
out
about that?
on family time because of that. It's a
Okay.
grind. They just are stuck in traffic.
Well, stuck in traffic and working late hours, not important. What is it about those late hours? Missing time with family. How many kids have you got? What are their names? What are their ages? What specifically are you missing out on? Putting them to bed. Can I ask you a strange personal question? Yes. Did your dad put you to bed? Yeah. Okay. How do you think that impacted your, future? Well, having a dad that was present, I think it really gave me a good start to the future. If you were to just imagine, what do you think your life would have looked like if you had a dad that wasn't present? Right? Like, whatever the fuck you want to say, I'll just go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into whatever you tell me. If you tell me, stuck in traffic, then we'll find some nonsense about why stuck in traffic is so negative for you. But it's not the first layer. It's the 19th layer on the thing that they told you where you're like, oh, that's what's going on. Make
Makes
sense?
sense. Yep.
Yep. All right. So go from wherever you want. If you want to go from, why does she want to get out? We can role play that.
Okay, sure. Yeah, let's do that. So Nicole, you mentioned you want to build this team because you want to stop producing yourself. Why is that?
Well, um, I'm working crazy hours, and I have two little ones at home. Um, I'm working weekends. I'm working sometimes holidays. I'm working nights. Um, and so, yeah, I'm just working so much. I want to take a step back.
How old are your kids exactly?
How old are my kids?
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 and 4.
Okay. When you have had to work late at night and you're working weekends and you can't be there for them, how do you think that impacts them?
Hang on, we're jumping, Justin.
Am I
We're jumping.
jumping? See,
We're
this is the
jumping.
part. This is the part that I struggle with because I'm like,
We're jumping from layer one to layer 500 there, which is fine. At least you're jumping, but you've got to massage it a little bit. So
okay,
it would go. Do you want me to show you what I would do to get
yeah,
to where you're
please, because
going?
I feel like I have a hard time having this like deep personal conversation with people.
It
Like,
will be a lot easier if you take it step by step. If you try and go from data gathering to, what is it about not being with your kids that's such a challenge? It's going to feel like whiplash. It's like abrupt. So I just say, okay, got it. So you got two kids, 6 and 4, and you mentioned you want to take a step back. Tell me about that.
Um, yeah, I just want to take a step back. My
Well,
husband,
what does take a step back mean to you specifically?
ideally, I want to build out my downline and, have it just do its thing. I want to be able to work like right now I'm working like 60, 70 hours a week, and I would love to be able to work, 30.
Okay. When I heard you say step back, maybe I just misinterpreted it. I was kind of imagining that you want to step back from the business and into a different reality. Maybe that's related to what you're saying about your kids. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I can't keep working the way that I'm working now.
Okay. And so you're saying 60 hours plus down to 30, take a step back. What do you want those extra 30 hours for in regards to stepping back to something alternative?
Oh yeah, I would take the time to spend time with my family, maybe take a vacation with them, and just be able to be around more. Drop them off at school, pick them up from school, go to their school activities, that sort of thing.
Okay. You said be around. How much would you say you are around at the moment for your 6-year-old and your 4-year-old?
Usually just in the mornings.
Uh, so how much time total a day would you say you see them?
4 hours.
Four, 4 hours a day. Okay. And you mentioned that's in the morning. So there's any time in the evening?
Sometimes by the time I get home, my husband's already put them in bed and they're asleep.
Okay. And I kind of get the sense that that's bothering you.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely does, and he's also not happy about it as well.
Okay. If you were to focus on which of those is most important at the moment, I know they're both important, but just to kind of hone in on something, are we having a conversation about how this is affecting your relationship with your husband, or are we having a conversation right now about how this is affecting your kids?
Definitely more the kids,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
But he's also voiced that it could be affecting the kids too.
Oh, so it's not that it's affecting your relationship with your husband, it's that your husband has told you it's affecting the kids
Yeah.
and you potentially feel it's affecting the kids as well. Okay.
Yeah.
What exactly did he say to you?
Well, like my daughter, especially, she's 4, and she's always just asking him, "Where's mom?"
Okay. And, sometimes husband and wife have differing opinions. Where does your opinion lie as to what your husband said to you?
I mean, I definitely agree,
Okay.
but you know, just because he's the stay-at-home dad, pretty much. So, non-traditional, I guess.
Yep.
But
I
yeah.
sorry, just one second. I sense a bit of not resentment, but kind of like he doesn't get it kind of thing. Like kind of a little bit of resistance, not like, hey, my husband's completely right. I need to get home. I need to figure out this downline and I need to make sure I'm there for the kids. I kind of sense a little bit of like maybe, well, I just have to work and he has to take care of the kids and that's just the way it is, or am I missing something?
Um, yeah, I think that, I do have to work. Like I have to,
Yep.
I'm the one bringing home the bread. So, um, yeah, and like just especially lately, just having to work so many more hours to be able to keep everything afloat and keep everything moving forward.
Okay. And so what I'm wondering then is like, are you at a point where what your husband's saying and your opinion of it and, the fact that you do have to work, are you at a point where you're like, no, I need to change this. I need to fix the downline, attract higher quality, attract more experienced agents that can produce, the 40, 20 million, whatever the number was that you're producing, and take a step back and be more present at home? Or are you at the point where you're like, yeah, I see my husband's point. It probably is affecting the kids, but no, I just have to keep working and it is what it is.
No, I'm definitely at that point because I would
Okay.
prefer to take a step back too.
Oh, so you also want to take a step back. Do you mean like for your own health and happiness, or are you
Yeah.
referring to you want to take a step back for the kids, or are those separate things?
No, definitely both.
Okay, both. Okay. Why do you want to take a step back just for you?
My stress is
Okay.
just at the highest it's been. And I've been prioritizing obviously work over myself, my family, and it's not good.
Okay. Can you give me an example of like something where you've prioritized your work over yourself? Like what over yourself have you let slide?
Sleep,
Okay,
health,
sleep. Yep.
health, nutrition.
Okay. Okay. So stress, yourself in general, your health, your nutrition, your family, your kids. Is there any conflict between you and your husband over this amount of hours that you're working because you don't have a downline that would allow you to move away from the business, take a step back?
He's very supportive, but yeah, we're both on the same page, that the kids are young and they want their mom to be around.
All right, I'm going to pause there. You see how many different layers I'm getting, Justin? Husband, issue with the husband, issue with the kids, issue with her own health, her own nutrition. Now, this is probably going to be one of those sales where it's not the one thing that I'm going to say, how much longer do you want to affect the kids? It's a whole cart of things. It's your health, your nutrition, the husband, the kids, herself, but the accumulation of all of those things is enough to make a sale.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do I need to go specifically into how it impacts her kids? Because it's like, okay, 4-year-old daughter wants you around. Like how I think of it, maybe I'm insensitive. I'm like, okay, like, like, do I have to talk about like how that impacts her kids or how she feels it would impact her kids or like just to go
So
deep?
yeah, so the way that Nicole phrased it was the kids want their mum there, which is interesting use of language because it's not I want to be there for my kids. It's
Mm.
my kids want their mum there. So I would challenge that a little bit because it's interesting. It's a little bit of detachment from it's something I need to give my kids versus, well, I think my kids are needing it. So I could say something like, okay, got it. So I'm clear on, husband, stress, family, health, nutrition, etc. The kids. You said that your kids want their mum there. How do you know that?
Because they say it to my husband all the time.
What exactly do they say?
Oh, when he's getting them ready for bed, tucking them in, they'll be like, "Where's mom? Like, can she read to us? Can she tuck us in?" And he just has to say that I'm at work.
Okay. And in regards to your kids wanting you there to read to them and, put them to bed, how do you feel about that as far as parenthood?
Yeah, I would love to be there for them.
Do you feel it's something you need to give your children, or do you feel it's something that would be a nice to have, but if I can't, then I'll just keep working? Or how important is that, do you feel?
I think it's very important. I was lucky enough to have my mom be able to raise my brother and I, and she worked from home.
And what
So,
about that makes you say it was lucky?
mm,
In what way did that give you fortune, benefits?
a great relationship, with my mom, and we
How
were
did that affect
happy.
you growing up? Like, how did that affect your going into the world?
Probably more stability, I guess.
Okay.
I felt loved and cared for.
Okay. Interesting. How do you feel you would have felt in regards to being loved and being cared for if your mum and dad were only around 4 hours a day?
Not much.
How do you think your kids are feeling?
The same thing.
Okay. How does that make you feel?
Like a terrible parent.
All right. You see how I'm looking, I'm looking, I'm looking, I'm looking. I find it. I'm like, okay. But it's just questions, Justin. It's just keep
Yeah,
asking more and more questions.
it all makes sense. But like the thing that I didn't see is like, what about that makes you feel lucky? Like I was like, whoa, like where did that come from? Like everything else you asked, I'm like, okay, I'm tracking. And then the little words that she said, like it's lucky, allowed you to get into that, which then got into the rest of the stuff. I completely missed that. Like, didn't even notice that. And I'm pretty sure Nicole didn't even notice that either. She was like, oh,
I
wait,
didn't.
right? It's crazy. I don't know how you caught that. It was
Okay, so let's break that down. So there's a few things. How did I catch that? And you're spot on that the prospect, whether it was a real prospect or a role play, they don't even know what they're saying, but it's subconscious. I was lucky because my parents are around. Well, I'm going to get you to tell me why that was lucky. Because now I'm getting into it's not even your values, it's your life experiences. It's like you feel that you had a lucky experience of life, both past, present, and future, in relation to your parents being around. That is something that you believe so strongly that it's coming out into your vocabulary. It's not even conscious. You didn't say, oh, I'm going to tell this salesperson that I'm a lucky person because my parents are around. It just came out subconsciously. So the first thing is to realize that people's choice of words is so deep inside of their perception of reality. So that's step one. So I know that what people say is a doorway to their reality. Then I want to open the doorway and get them to walk through it and start describing things to me. Oh, I had this, and I guess that was so good because of this reason, and that allowed this to happen, and that created this future, and blah 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 blah. Okay, so that's the second thing, is getting them to explore it and talk about it. Then I was able to connect it to previous information, which is, okay, so that's what you had. I'm curious, how does that compare your lucky reality to the reality of your kids? So I'm showing a contrast before and after. Is like, well, if that was lucky, then if my kids have the opposite, that must be unlucky. I'm getting them to see the parallels. And then it's just emotions. It's okay, well, how do you think they feel? How do you feel? Okay. Are you at the point where you're willing to, I could say something very technically worded, which is, are you at the point where you're no longer willing to rob your children of their own luck? of having a lucky upbringing. I could say a lucky upbringing. Are you at the point where you're no longer willing to keep robbing your children of a lucky upbringing? Is that something you're willing to keep robbing them of? No. Why not?
Wouldn't a better word choice, Josh, be loving and caring? Because she also used those words as well.
Probably even better.
Probably more impactful.
Exactly. Okay. So, are you at the point where you're no longer willing to keep robbing your children of feeling like they have a loving and caring mother?
Mm.
She'd be like, oh, fuck. And it's like you're selling such deep societal norms. It's like for her to turn around and say, I'm not going to buy, would be like, what? Like you're just going to ostracize yourself from society by telling yourself and everyone around you that you're not a loving or caring mother and you don't care about that? It's impossible to give me an objection. It's not even possible to give me a financial objection if she's broke. She's just going to get to the end of the call and be like, fuck, I need to go and find the money somewhere, because the money is less important than continuing to be not a loving and caring mother. So then they'll just solve their own financial objections. Yeah, but you're spot on. The key is to see things. Oh, she said a lucky upbringing. Well, what does that mean? That's interesting. It's bewilderment. It's curiosity. It's like, oh, lucky? Like, that's an interesting thing to say. Because I'm not thinking about my next question. I'm not thinking about my scripted line. I'm listening to what is in the here and now, which is, you said something interesting. I want to talk about that. The prospect is the guiding light, the shining light of where the answers are. If you say something, I'm listening. And then when I hear it, I'm going to ask you more about it. And if I just keep following that trail of light, I'll find the way to connect everything together.
How does one train themselves to pick up on these small things?
How do you train yourself to pick up on these things? I think a massive part of it is tuning out all of the outside noise. So if you had a picture where it's all different shades of red, like dark red, light red, whatever, and then in the middle of the painting was yellow, it's so obvious. It's like, well, there's a completely different color in the middle of the painting. That is the same. That's a visual explanation, but that's the same with our hearing. We hear so much, but you've got to be able to see how a lot of stuff blends together, but then there's one thing that is different. And you train that by silencing the rest of your mind when you're on a sales call and just really, really, really listening to what the prospect's saying. And, if you really silence everything, when someone says it's lucky, you'd be like, what do you mean? What do you mean? It would just be so obvious to say, what do you mean? Another reason why salespeople don't train this ability is because they're trying to make a sale as opposed to just trying to be curious. I didn't know that asking you about lucky was going to make a sale. I thought it was interesting. And if I follow what's interesting, I'll find what's meaningful. And if I find what's meaningful, then I can make a sale, because value is a sale. Value is attached to meaning. Meaning is attached to what stands out. If nothing stands out, there's no value, there's no meaning. So I'm looking for what stands out. Okay? All right.
That's
We'll leave that role play there. I'm going to summarize these key points here. Do you have any other questions, guys? Either of you?
No.
Nope. Was that useful, Justin?
Dude, this is so fucking useful. Like, holy shit. The first 2 minutes, I was like, already. And then we just got to like the rest of the discovery. I'm just like, I can't believe how many times I just let prospect just like even like the problem, like the opener, like, okay, so you are getting beginning agents, but you're not getting experience. Like I was like, oh, I like that one. Like I hear that, I'm like, no, that was very useful. Thank you, Josh.
My pleasure, brother. All right, so there you have it. That is a in-action, scriptless selling training, role play, and a discovery. We covered a number of different things, but I'm going to break down some of the key things that will completely transform sales for you. So first one, gathering more data. The devil is in the details. If you miss some of the key numbers in the prospect's mind when they're trying to figure out their situation, the problem, whether they want to stay in that situation, it's like a map that has holes in it. If you have a map with holes in it, you can't use it to get to your destination. Each of those little sections of the map are pieces of data. So when you're at the front part of a sales call, you have to keep asking questions until you've gathered all the data, so that before we try and make a trip somewhere or change the person's life or get them to take action, we actually have the whole map. So that's the first thing. Second thing is frame control. Justin was saying, you know, it's crazy how you start to feel the shift in the frame. Frame is who is perceived as the expert, who is perceived as the person that needs the sale the least. How do you do that? You do that by taking what the prospect's saying and flipping it back on them. But in the process of flipping it back on them, you're removing all of the pieces of information that are not as important. And what that does is the prospect now looks at you and thinks, holy shit, this person is assimilating everything that I'm saying and thinking and feeling and honing in on the most important things. Part of being successful in life is prioritizing things. What a prospect is giving you on a sales call is information. Key piece of your job as a salesperson is to prioritize the key pieces and remove everything that is not the most important thing. Next, challenging people. You don't have to challenge the prospect with objection handling tracks and analogies and reframes 99.9% of the time. The data is going to do the challenging for them. And if the data does the challenging, they're not going to shoot the messenger. They're not going to think you're trying to challenge them, you're trying to provoke them. They're just looking at the facts and they're going, yeah, this is pretty shit. I don't want to continue running my business like this. So don't be thinking, hey, how do I train to challenge my prospects? Focus on gathering enough data so that the data challenges the prospect's reality. Next one is ownership over the problem. You get people to take ownership over the problem by actually not trying to sell them. Say, well, why don't you just do this? And then the prospect says, no, I don't want to do that. The more you try and force the prospect to take ownership over the situation, the more they resist it. That's just laws of physics. Every force has an equal and opposite force. If you try and force them to take ownership, they just reject it. They just don't want to do that. Final point is listening and how to have such a deep conversation that you hear things that 99.9% of salespeople, it would just go right over their head. And those moments where you hear something and you're able to go, well, hang on, let's just put a pin in that. Tell me about that. You then find the gold. You go so deep into the truth of someone's reality that it would be ridiculous for them to not decide to take action and buy on the call right there and then. We saw that at the end there with the prospect that Nicole was playing, saying, well, I think I was really lucky to be an adult that had children, to be a child that had adults that were loving and caring and they were present and they were around. And I said, well, why do you think that's lucky? Now we're getting into her entire historical arc of how her life changed by having that one thing in her fundamental years as a hypothetical child that she would have been as the prospect. You get into all of that, and what you find happens is that you're no longer selling the material thing that you're selling something so much deeper than that. And what that does is it makes the price of what you're selling seem so small in comparison, as well as the fear of getting out of their comfort zone, that making a decision and taking action right now is just inevitable. Now, that was a lot of different things. We do training like this every single week inside the Unicorn Closer Mastermind. Now, this was about an hour and a half. We typically train on these things for 4 hours every single week. If that is something that you think is going to benefit you as a salesperson to make more money, to have deeper conversations, to also enjoy selling a lot more, and to start learning about human behavior, there'll be a link somewhere around this video. You can click that link, take you to a video. You can watch the video, and I might see you on the inside of the Unicorn Closer Mastermind on the next live training. I hope that was useful. I'll see you in the next video.